Imagine a time before money, a time when you paid for your bread with a pot or traded a sheep for some cloth. This was the world of barter. It was complicated and often quite unfair, but then something extraordinary happened in a kingdom called Lydia, in what is now modern-day Turkey. Around the year 600 BCE, a truly revolutionary idea was born. The Lydians, under their wise King Alyattes, created the world's very first coins. This single invention would change how people bought, sold, and thought about value forever. It was the beginning of money as we know it. The secret to these first coins lay in a special, naturally occurring material. It was a metal called electrum, a pale yellow mixture of gold and silver that washed down in the local rivers. Lydian artisans would take small, bean-shaped lumps of this precious electrum. They weren't perfectly round like the coins we have in our pockets today. Instead, they were oval or irregular, each one a little bit different. The weight of each lump was carefully measured to make sure it was consistent. This was a crucial step. It meant that a lump of a certain size would always have the same value, which was a massive leap forward from simply guessing the worth of goods. But how could you be sure it was genuine? This is where King Alyattes had another brilliant idea. He ordered each lump of electrum to be stamped with an official seal. This mark, known as a punch, guaranteed two things. First, it guaranteed the weight of the metal. Second, it guaranteed its purity. The king's authority was now physically pressed into the metal. The most common design was the head of a roaring lion, a powerful symbol of the Lydian royal house. This lion wasn't just a pretty picture, it was the king's personal promise that the coin was real and worth its stated value. This simple act of stamping a piece of metal was a stroke of genius. It transformed a raw material into a trusted medium of exchange. People no longer had to weigh and test the metal for every single transaction. They could simply look for the king's lion. If the symbol was there, they knew they could trust the coin. This created a standardized, reliable form of currency that was easy to carry and use. The Lydian starter, as the coin was known, was born. It was a small object, but it held the power to completely reshape the ancient world's economy and set a new course for human history. Before the Lydians had their big idea, life was a constant negotiation. The system of trade was called barter. If you were a farmer who had wheat, but you needed a new pair of shoes, you had a problem. You had to find a shoemaker who not only had shoes your size but also wanted your wheat at that exact moment. This was called the double coincidence of wants, and it made trade incredibly slow and inefficient. What if the shoemaker didn't need wheat but wanted pottery instead? You would then have to find a potter who wanted your wheat, trade for a pot, and then take the pot to the shoemaker. It was all very clumsy. Coins changed everything. Suddenly, the farmer could sell his wheat to anyone for a handful of Lydian coins. He didn't have to worry about what the buyer had to offer in return. With those coins in his hand, he could then go directly to the shoemaker and buy the shoes he needed. The coins acted as a universal middleman. They stored value in a convenient, portable form. Trade became faster, easier, and could happen on a much larger scale. Markets bustled with new energy, as merchants could now price their goods with a clear, understandable value that everyone agreed upon. The benefits of coinage went far beyond simple convenience. It allowed for the creation of wealth in a way that was previously impossible. Under the barter system, wealth was tied up in physical goods like land, animals, or grain. These things are difficult to store, divide, and transport. A herd of cattle is not easy to take on a long journey, and you can't exactly break off a small piece of a cow to pay for a loaf of bread. Coins, however, were divisible. They came in different sizes and values, making both large and small payments simple. They were also durable and easy to store, allowing people to save their wealth for the future. This new system also introduced a level of fairness and transparency that barter lacked. With standardized coins, prices could be set for all to see. A loaf of bread cost a certain number of small coins, and a fine tunic cost a certain number of larger ones. This clarity reduced arguments and made commerce more predictable. It empowered ordinary people, from soldiers to craftsmen, who could now be paid a wage in coins instead of in rations of food and supplies. This gave them the freedom to buy what they truly needed or wanted, sparking a new kind of economic independence for individuals. The lion stamped on those first Lydian coins was more than just a decoration. It was a powerful statement of royal authority. By issuing coins with his official seal, King Alyattes was essentially telling the world, I, the king, guarantee the value of this metal. This was a completely new concept. It meant that the state was now taking direct control over the economy. The government decided what was money, and it backed that money with its power and reputation. This was a clever way to centralize authority and project an image of a strong, stable, and modern kingdom. This state control brought immense benefits to the rulers themselves. For one, it made collecting taxes much easier. Instead of collecting taxes in the form of grain, livestock, or other goods, which were difficult to store and manage, the government could demand payment in its own official coins. This created a neat, efficient system for funding the state's activities, such as paying for soldiers, building temples, and funding public works. Coinage became the engine of the state, allowing kings and emperors to build and maintain their vast empires with a reliability that was previously unimaginable. The Lydian idea was so powerful that it quickly caught the attention of their neighbors. The ancient Greeks, who were great traders and thinkers, saw the advantages of coinage almost immediately. They adopted the practice and began striking their own beautiful coins. City-states like Athens and Corinth started producing silver coins stamped with their own unique symbols. The Athenian drachma, for instance, famously featured the goddess Athena on one side and her sacred owl on the other. These symbols acted as a kind of advertisement for the city, spreading its fame and culture across the Mediterranean with every transaction. From Greece, the concept of coinage spread like wildfire across the ancient world. The mighty Persian Empire adopted it to manage its vast territories, issuing gold darics and silver sigloi. Soon after, the Romans would master the art of minting, producing millions of coins bearing the portraits of their emperors. These Roman coins, like the denarius, became a tool of propaganda, carrying the face and titles of the emperor to the furthest corners of the empire. A simple farmer in Britain might never see Rome, but he would see the face of the emperor on the coin in his hand, a constant reminder of who was in charge. The small, shiny electrum beans from Lydia may seem primitive to us now, but they set in motion a global economic transformation. Their creation marked the end of the cumbersome barter system and the beginning of a monetized world. By creating a standardized, government-guaranteed unit of account, the Lydians provided the blueprint for all subsequent monetary systems. This innovation simplified trade, enabled the accumulation of capital, and allowed for the payment of wages, fundamentally changing the relationship between individuals, merchants, and the state. Every coin in your pocket or transaction on your bank statement has a direct ancestor in those first Lydian states. The impact was felt far beyond the marketplace. Coinage fueled the growth of empires by making taxation and military funding more efficient. It also fostered a new level of interconnectedness between civilizations. As coins traveled along trade routes, they carried with them not just economic value, but also cultural and political messages. The symbols and portraits stamped on them were a form of mass communication, broadcasting a kingdom's power, religion, and identity across continents. A Greek coin found in India or a Roman coin unearthed in Germany tells the story of ancient global networks linked by the common language of money. Following Lydia's lead, many famous and iconic coins emerged throughout history, each making its own mark. The Athenian owl became a symbol of wisdom and a trusted currency throughout the Greek world. The gold daric of Persia was one of the first international currencies, valued for its purity. Later, the Roman denarius became the backbone of the Roman Empire's economy for centuries. Even the Byzantine solidus, which remained the standard for gold coinage for over 700 years, owed its existence to the foundational principles established by the Lydians. Each of these coins built upon the simple but profound idea of a state-guaranteed, portable store of value. In conclusion, the birth of coinage in Lydia was one of the most pivotal moments in human history. It was a simple solution to the ancient problem of trade, yet its consequences were vast and everlasting. King Alyattes and his Lydian subjects didn't just invent money. They created a tool that would build empires, empower individuals, and weave the world together in a complex web of commerce and culture. The clinking of coins, a sound now familiar across the globe, first echoed in the streams of ancient Lydia, a small kingdom whose legacy of innovation continues to shape our world's economies to this very day.